Call to order the Cottrellville Township Board regular meeting for Wednesday, October 9th, 2024. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a moment of silence in honor of the people that are suffering down south with Hurricane number 2, and Sarah just told me number 3 is on the way. Okay, we'll start with roll call attendance. Sarah DiStefano? Here. Tom Kaufman?
Here.
Eugene Moore Jr.
Here.
Angela is on her way. She's had a function with her kid, and she's running a little bit late, but she'll make it. That's probably her there. Is it?
Yep.
See,
Child and all.
I told you, she's miraculous, that woman.
Should be a couple minutes while they went that way.
Okay. Should have never packed up. She probably had to go potty. All right, let's do the first thing. We have a couple of guest speakers. The first one is our auditor, Mr. Paul Bailey from UHY LLP. He's our township accountant, and he's going to go through our regular debriefing that he does each year on our accounts to tell us if we've been good boys and girls. So, and the other one is Mrs. Sabella. She's East China School District Superintendent, and she's going to give us some information. Is there enough to give anybody in the audience if they want any of this? Okay, so if you need something to look at when they're speaking, please say something. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you.
All right, we'll start with you,
Sorry,
Paul.
guys.
Okay, well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. I think everybody got a copy of the audit report in your electronic packet, as well as I've handed out a printed copy. As you know, you contract with our firm to do your annual financial audit. My team comes in, spends a week or so doing the audit. We do it both remotely and on site. Then we go back, pull it all together, send a draft copy to the supervisor, clerk, treasurer for them to go through it in a lot of detail, answer any questions, and then finally print it and present it to you tonight. Everything went very well. You're in excellent financial condition, and we'll talk about some numbers, but overall, I think you're in good financial condition, excellent financial condition. If you turn
Speak a little louder into that machine.
Okay.
We have just so that I can hear that we're in
Okay.
good shape. Thank you.
If you turn in just past the table of contents, there's a page on UHY's letterhead. This is the independent auditor's report. It's technically the only portion of the report that belongs to our firm, and it's where we give opinion on whether your financial statements are presented in accordance with general accepted accounting principles. You have what they call an unmodified or clean opinion. That's what you're striving for. It's pretty boilerplate, but again, it means everything is presented in accordance with general accepted accounting principles when you go through this. If you look at page 4, 5, 6, and 7, we're not going to spend much time with this, but this is what they call the management discussions and analysis letter. It's a letter to the readers that kind of just lay out how your financial statements are put together, as well as some very summarized financial information. It is required to be in there to get that unmodified or clean opinion, and again, it just gives some summarized information. If we turn to page 8, as I've explained in prior years, there's actually 2 sets of financial statements in your audit report. There's the commercial way of looking at Cottrellville Township, and then the traditional way governmental units have reported. We're going to spend most of our time with the traditional way, but page 8, 9, and 10 are the commercial way of looking at the township. And basically the difference is the commercial way takes the book value of all your buildings, all your water and sewer systems, all your any infrastructure you have, less any liabilities, and tells the reader whether you're positive or negative. And if you look at the very bottom line on page 8, if you were a corporation, you'd have an equity of about $7,475,000. Now, a lot of that's tied up in capital assets. If you go up above, you can see about two-thirds down the way, or one-third down the way, what they call capital assets, and that's about $7.5 million there. But a lot of governmental units are in a negative because they've done a lot of promising of benefits, post-retirement benefits to employees. You don't have any of that situation, so you're in better shape than a lot of them. Let's turn to page 11 and 12, the traditional way governments have reported. This is your balance sheet or snapshot as of March 31st, 2024. Starts out with your general fund. You can see the assets, the cash of $758,000, your investments of $235,000, some receivables. Total assets this year, $1,107,000. Some liabilities, accounts payable, bills that come in after the end of the year of $38,008. Some other accrued expenses, payroll and payroll taxes of $4,500. So unavailable revenues, that's money you've received that you don't get in within 60 days of $29,000. So that leaves your fund balance as of the end of the year in your general fund of $1,034,913. And we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Your fire fund right next to it, you can see they had a fund balance as of March 31st of $55,278. Your garbage fund had a fund balance of $273,660. The CARES, basically, you still had $206,000 to spend at the end of the year. That was as of March. And then there's a whole bunch of other funds put together in one column, and their fund balance was $368,437. And I'll show you where you can get the detail on that in a few minutes. If you turn over to page 14 and 15, this is your operating statement for your governmental funds. Starts out with your general fund. You can see this year the taxes that are brought in. You can see licenses and permits. This year, revenues were $665,251. You had expenditures of $497,461. You transferred $21,300 to other funds. So for the year ended March 31st, 2024, you were to the positive revenues over expenditures of $146,490. So again, positive $146,490. The fire fund this year brought in $137,982. You spent $151,000. You transferred in from the general fund $20 to help subsidize that. So with that transfer in, the fire fund was to the good $6,914. The garbage fund took in $215,978. You spent $222,000, so you used up a little bit of their fund balance of $6,424, so expenses over revenues. Your CARES fund, this year you were recognized $96,000 of your CARES money. You had expenditures of $110,000, and you had a fund balance at the beginning of the year of $14,000 that used that up. The other funds, which the details on page 38, and we'll flip to that in a few minutes, their total revenues for all the other funds, what they call other governmental funds, took in $200,592. You spent $205,439. There was transfers from the general fund of $1,300. So they had expenses over revenues of $3,547. So pretty much a break even there. In addition, on page 17, is what they call your proprietary funds. You have, and these are the funds that operate similar to a business where you provide a service and your residents and your commercial entities pay for the service. This is your water fund and your sewer fund. And it shows the assets, the liabilities of each of the funds. I guess if we kind of just talk, the second to last line on the bottom is what they call your net position, what they call the unrestricted. You'd have about $515,000 in your water fund if you had to do something that wasn't restricted. In your sewer fund, if you go there, $735,224. The water and sewer fund, the assets include the value of the utility system, your sewer lines, the water lines, things like that. So your net position or your equity in those funds are really high, but a lot of it's tied up, as you can see, in capital assets. That's why I keyed you to that number. If we turn over to page 18, 18 is the operating statement for each of the funds, and there's a little bit more detail in the back, but you can see this year the water fund took in $578,000. You had operating expenses of $743,000. Then you had what they call non-operating revenues and expenditures of positive $3,519. So for the year, you had expenses over revenues of $161,445. The sewer fund took in $338,000. You spent $186,000. But you also had what they call a capital contribution. As you know, you're doing a sewer projects, and that's the value of the loan that was forgiven. That 15% value of the loan, the bonds that you issued, and then they forgave up to 15% of that portion there. If we turn over to page 38. Page 38 is a breakdown of that other column. There's basically 5 other funds. You'll see Cherry Beach Lighting. You can see they took in $1,379, spent $3,000. You transferred in the $1,300, so expenses over revenues of $321. Your park fund this year took in just under $20,000. You spent $15,339, so they were to the good $4,656. The police fund, pretty much, you just have revenues, there was no expenditure, you took in $18,666 there. The road fund this year, you took in $78,264, you spent $108,000, so you had expenses over revenues of $30,379, and that's the way, the road fund, as you know, works. You have to build up money to do projects, so some year you have an excess of revenues over expenditures, and other years when you spend the money is the opposite way. New fund this year, or last year, was the ambulance fund, that countywide ambulance millage, and pretty much the money comes in and goes out, but it is your contract with the ambulance authority, so you took in $82,000. As of the end of the year, you had spent $78,000 of that to your ambulance authority. That is a real quick synopsis of the numbers. Again, overall, I think they look good. Any questions on the numbers? I'm going to talk about the letters in a second, but any questions I can answer on the numbers at this time?
I don't think so. No.
There's a couple letters that's attached. The first one says Independent Auditor's Report on Internal Control. As I've explained in the past, when we come in, not only do we audit the numbers, but we make sure that there's 2 sets of eyes on all transactions, as well as the processes that's supposed to happen within the township are happening. And if we become aware of what we call weaknesses, we're required to put it in this letter. There's a few of them attached here. We kind of went through, my staff, my senior, I know, went through them with the supervisor, clerk, and treasurer, and your accountant, and some of them have already been, my understanding, changed. I can go through each one of them, but that's what this letter is all about. The second letter there is the audit communication letter. Because CPA firms aren't required to come to a meeting like this, we always have come to the meeting and answered any questions you may have. Just kind of goes through whether there was any difficulties with the audit. It's a pretty boilerplate letter. It just says that everything went as planned. We planned the audit, come in, got started. There's some estimates in your financial statements, as with almost all financial statements. And then if we talk about some things that aren't what we call weaknesses and controls, but we talk to the administration about our management, we attach them to the back just so you can see them, the second to last page. They're just a couple other suggestions that we'd like you to consider there. The last couple pages are what they call past adjustments. Sometimes when you're doing an audit, you can find things that maybe you should adjust to be technically correct, but it complicates the process a little bit more by doing it, and you have some leeway of whether you have to do that, and that's what a couple of these adjustments are. We didn't suggest you make them, but we just had to disclose that technically they should be handled a little bit differently, but they're not material to your financial statements, and we didn't suggest making them. I can spend more time with the letters or the numbers if you would like on anything.
Good. I think it looks good. Everything that I asked Tammy, so she went through and gave me a...
Yep. And she would have been here tonight, but her hot water heater sprung a leak. So she's got plumbers over at her house right now.
Wait till she gets the bill for that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. right, well, it looks good to me.
Attachment A, I wish that last one had investigate the large difference between the amount of water and sewer treating. For that sewer repair, that should get things close.
Yeah, the number went pretty high this year. I mean, it's always been your township's always had a high loss percentage or infiltration into the system. And this year it really went really high.
Hopefully that's done. They just repaired that whole sewer line up there they went through.
Yeah, keep your fingers right. Hopefully that takes care of it. That's one thing when you're paying, another municipality for your water, it's almost dollar for, dollar. Or if it's at your own plant, it's not quite as bad.
Yeah. We're not big enough to play with the big boys
Yeah,
yet.
no.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
I guess we're all set then.
Pleasure to work with you again.
Thank you. My pleasure too.
Have a good meeting.
Very good, sir, thank you. All right, Mrs. Sabella, would you like to come up and address everybody, please? If there's anyone that needs any of those papers that you haven't gotten, you want to take a look at what she handed us to look at, so you're not falling asleep at the wheel?
Good evening. My name is Suzanne Sibula. I'm the superintendent of East China School District. I appreciate you giving myself and the director of finance for East China School District, Angela Gleason, an opportunity to share with you some information regarding the proposal that will be on the November 5 ballot. I want you to keep in mind that when Mrs. Gleason and I present information from the East China School District, and anything that's in these flyers or anything we say verbally has to be factually accurate. So both of these documents are on our website, are on the East China School District website. They're right on the front page. You click on Sinking Fund 2024, and they're both there along with the tax calculator, so you can calculate the impact for your home. But before we're allowed as a public school district to put any of this information on our website, it has to go by our attorneys. So we write it up the way that we, for the information that we wanted it to have, we send it to our attorneys. They mark it up and send it back to us and say, this needs to be fixed, this needs to be worded differently, this needs to be accurate, and we fix it, send it back to them. Once they approve it, both of these documents, we were allowed to put them on our website. So I know that there is some communication out there. I think you have it on your agenda for later, a letter in opposition to what I'm going to share with you tonight. As opposed to that, everything we share with you as stewards of the district has to be factually accurate. So, with that being said, the first document is this one-page sheet. The proposal that's on the ballot is a sinking fund for the East China School District, and that's a horrible name. Sinking fund sounds like something sinking, and it's more as a fill-in. It's meant to be another money source to pay for items different than our general fund. So you guys just had your audit, so you're thinking in those terms. But on this one-page document, we have identified by the blue stars the items that our bond that was passed in March of 2020 took care of. So when we did our facilities assessment prior to the bond passing, we identified our highest priority needs in East China School District for all of our buildings. And then we went out to our community and they passed the bond. They said, yes, we like this idea that you have to upgrade and renovate your facilities. And in that bond app, we identified each of the areas we were going to address. So what people tend to say to me when I'm talking about the sinking fund is, we just passed this bond in March of 2020. What was that money used for, and what is this money needed for? So the blue stars are what we did with the bond money, and the orange dots indicate the priorities we've identified that still need to be addressed for our facilities in East China School District. And it's broken down at the top by building. So you see the Administration, Innovation Center, and Early Childhood Center, which is all one building now, and then Bell River Elementary, Palms, Pine River, our new St. Clair River Elementary that's currently St. Clair Middle School will become an elementary school next year, but it's broken down by building. So you can see where those funds were spent. Bond money is a one-time infusion of cash that we get to use for what we identified. And that's what we did, and now we're looking for the sinking fund part of our budget that will allow us to pay for ongoing expenses. So the second document is our frequently asked questions document. And what is different about this sinking fund than previous sinking funds? So East China School District had a sinking fund in place. That sinking fund, the only allowable expenses were to upgrade and renovate buildings. That was all you could spend the money on. And that's an audited fund, so if it wasn't an approved sinking fund expense, we couldn't pay for it out of that fund. Since, well, I think it was last year, since that time, the laws, the rules, the regulations have changed, and there are more allowable sinking fund expenses, big ones. So now sinking fund can be used to purchase and repair buses. So our school district is 142 square miles. Our buses do a lot of traveling on the roads, need repairs, need replacement. We have 30 buses.
We have 35 buses.
35 buses.
We plan to replace 30 over the next 10 years.
So over the course of this sinking fund this proposal, we would replace, I'm sorry. 30, thank you, 30 or 35. 30 of the 35 buses would need to be replaced. That is a sinking fund eligible expense. Technology is now a sinking fund eligible expense where it wasn't before. So if we want to upgrade any of our infrastructure technology, teaching technology, student technology, that's a sinking fund allowable expense. We are a one-to-one school district. That was part of the bond proposal, which means that all of our students have their own Chromebook. So when they get to 6th grade, we purchase them all a Chromebook that they can take home and use for the work and their homework. Up until 6th grade, it's kept in their classroom, but they all we're one-to-one. Every student has a Chromebook. So those are sinking fund allowable expenses. Safety and security is now a sinking fund allowable expense. So we put impact resistant film on all of our elementary buildings. We have safety and security director, we have 2 security specialists, and we have a SRO officer at the Marine City campus. Anything that we have to do with safety and security is a sinking fund allowable expense. So that is new. So if you've seen in the past, when we had a sinking fund, the mills were a lot less than this sinking fund is because of the allowable expansion of allowable expenses that we can use it for. So in the past, East China School District, we had a bus bond and we had a tech bond, and then we have the bond that we passed on renovate our buildings. The sinking fund would allow us to use those monies for the technology and the buses. We wouldn't need to come back out for separate bonds on those issues. And that's part of the strategy for funding public schools, is that they give us a foundation allowance. We just had count day recently where we count all of our students, and then we send that number to Lansing, and Lansing decides how much money we get, and that comes back to us in our foundation allowance. That's $9,608 per student. So unfortunately, this year, when the budget came out from the state, we were expecting an increase. You always hear the news that there was an increase in foundation allowance. We were told and projected to get a $241 increase in foundation allowance per student this year. When the budget came out, there was no increase, 0. So now we're redoing our original budget to account for that change. But we are always, as a public school district, at the mercy of the budgeting done in Lansing with this new fund, well, it's not new, after Proposal A in '94, this funding model for schools. They decide what we need to educate our students on a per pupil foundation allowance. There is no mechanism, and that is the second paragraph here in the frequently asked questions. There is no mechanism for purchasing buses, for upgrading technology, for installing safety and security, or maintenance, or repair and upgrade of buildings. That's separate. That's what sinking funds are designed to do. That isn't included in our $9,608. That's our general fund. A school district's budget, and ours as well, is 85 to 87% benefits and salaries. We're a people industry. We don't make a product, we make wonderful human beings. And so if we're looking at a budget and we need to cut or downsize in any way, it's going to affect people. And if we don't have a sinking fund in place to take care of all the needs that I outlined earlier, we're gonna have to look at our general fund budget, which is what we use to operate our classrooms. And I mentioned the safety and security piece. We have our directors and specialists and SRO. But over the past few years, we've also been able to put a social worker in every one of our schools. Prior to a few years ago, we had 3 social workers for the entire school district. So now we have 1 in every school. At our elementaries and our secondary buildings, we have English and math interventionists, which means if a student starts struggling in their math or their English class, we have a person designated to target and help them right away and get them back into their class so they don't get behind. Those are all of the types of positions in our school district that would be discussed if we needed to, pay for big ticket items. I can mention a zillion of them in our district. We have catch basins, and we have roofs, and we have fire suppression systems, and we have kitchens, and we have, the things that cost a lot of money for us to replace, and that doesn't include our fields. So we have a centralized football field. That's in the 6th year of a 10-year cycle of needing to be replaced, and that will be, over $1 million, $1.2 million, $1.3 million, somewhere in there to replace that field. Our tracks need to be replaced. The quote for the track at the stadium is $740,000. So when people say to a school, if you just tighten your belt a little, the cost that we have for running these types of top-notch facilities is large. And in order for us to pay for some of these big things, we need the sinking fund to take care of those and not affect our classroom, our general fund. We need to protect that as much as we can. And I'm going to pause for just a minute because I know that Mrs. Gleason would like to touch on that debt comparison chart that's both on this one sheet, kind of small down on the left, but it's also in the FAQ document on page 2, a little bit bigger, so you didn't bring your reading list.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So what that graph represents is the debt comparison for the millage rates, compares us to local surrounding school districts. And the blue section of that bar graph is their debt mills, and the orange section shows their sinking fund millages. So currently, East China School District is at 2.34 mills, and as Mrs. Sibula had mentioned, that represents our 2020 bond debt. That's all that it is. Everything else has dropped off. And then with a successful proposal of the 2.75 mills, that would put us at 5.09. That's the debt including, and then the sinking fund on top of it. So when you compare that to the other school districts in the area with sinking funds, it puts us more at par to those around us.
So I'd like to mention when Mrs. Gleason talks about these debt comparisons that for people to understand that this has become the way that the state of Michigan wants public school districts to fund themselves. In St. Clair County, there are only 2 school districts right now that are operating without a sinking fund, and that's East China School District and KPAC. Everyone else in our county uses that sinking fund to pay for those 4 big ticket items that I mentioned earlier. It is the model that is expected of us in order to protect those classroom dollars. The other thing I like to mention, and this can get a little bit confusing, but I'll try to keep it as clear as I can. I hear a lot of times that we have Detroit Edison or DTE in our backyard of our school district, so we must be getting a lot of money. It is not the case. It was before Proposal A. It is not the case now. What it does for us is because of its high value, I think, what did we say, 32% of our total taxable value is DTE. If we levy something against that value, then yes, we benefit from that. But if we don't pass a bond or a sinking fund millage or any of those items, the property value of that business is just a high property value because the state of Michigan decides what we get in per pupil funding. We get $9,608. No more, no less than that because DTE is in our backyard. What it benefits us is when we do leverage a millage, because of their high property value, they carry the biggest burden of that. And the homeowners reap that benefit. That is a benefit. You know, for our school district to levy 1 mil, we compared Marysville today.
Yes. When East China School District levies 1 mil against our taxable value, Marysville would have to levy 4 mils to bring in the same amount of revenue, just to give you an idea of the comparison of taxable value. We do have the highest taxable value in St. Clair County,
But
because 32% of it is DTE.
So I think a lot, you know, if I'm out talking to folks about this, where'd that DTE money, you know, where does that money go? And I have to kind of get into the way that schools are funded past that proposal A time, that they determine what we get per student. They tell us, and then anything else is up to us to raise as a community. And speaking of that, if the sinking fund proposal is successful, those dollars stay within the East China School District. So with the taxes you pay that go to Lansing and come back and, you know, divvy up, that's not the same. These dollars stay here. And that is one of the neat things about levying a sinking fund, is they are your dollars that stay in your school district. So with all of that being said, we're open to questions. I promised I would keep it short because I get passionate and I start talking. And I won't do that to you during your meeting. But if we're open to any questions that you may have, or Angie, did I forget anything?
On the average household, what would that compute to?
So I think the median range in our East China School District is $215 to $326, and on a taxable value, that would be about $30 a month or $1 a day.
Okay.
But
I know
I
a lot of
will
people.
just remind too that on our website, if you click the sinking fund button, there is another button within there that you can put in your taxable value from your tax bill. And it will calculate, you know, you'd put in your municipality, of course, and then it will give you an estimate of what you could expect.
And again, those had to be run by our attorneys before we could even put that calculator out there to make sure that it's giving accurate information.
I have a question.
Can we get the presidential campaign to have to do that?
I mean, they wordsmith everything. And has to be something else, or is needed, so we are very, very careful.
Can I ask a general question? How many students are we taking care of in East China as opposed to Marysville? How many students have they got?
I think there are 17.
I
There are
know-
17.
I have a spreadsheet that has that number. Unfortunately, I don't know offhand. I'm happy to share with that, but
If I had to,
if you answer questions, I'll look it up.
yeah, I was gonna say, 30, we're right around 39, and I think Marysville is at about 1,700. The difference that I think, that I didn't mention, that I think is important, is the size of our school district. So you think about Marysville's and the buildings and their locations and where they're drawing from. If you think about K-PAC, Memphis, Yale, and then you compare it to East China School District, and we have 2 separate communities that we're servicing. We have our central spot with our Performing Arts Center, our track, our stadium, our innovation center, our transportation garage, our 35 buses, our 142 square miles. It's just a completely different animal as far as size and number of buildings that we have to keep up. I tried to talk.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm just waiting for service.
Anybody else got any questions? What about in our audience? Anybody
Anyone have any
there have anything they want to ask?
questions?
How long would the sinking fund last? How long would the extra taxes be coming out for that?
10 years. It's as long, that's the extent that you can go for, is up to 10 years.
Okay.
$2,600.
26.
2,646.
And you said we're at 3,900?
We are at 36.
36.
3,600.
Like 1,000 more.
We still graduate, we have 2 more years of it. We graduate about 100 more students than we have coming in kindergartners. So if you think about our funding model again, that $9,608 each year for the past 10 years at minimum, we've had to budget for that 100 student less times that amount. It's $1 million. Every year for the past 10 years, we've been coming in with that much less dollars every year to work with. And that was the impetus for the consolidation, we have sold 3 of our school buildings, we've consolidated, we've gotten our square footage right-sized to the number of students we have. We did 2 enrollment studies to make sure we were headed in the right direction, and it's kind of eerie how spot on they've been as far as our number of students that we have. Well, thank you again. Really
Thank you for
appreciate the time and the
coming.
opportunity. Have a great night.
All right, good day. God bless you. Okay. Start off with the agenda approval. We also have a couple of extra,
Just one
item,
item.
addition for an adjusted request for approval of the installation of the phone line for the building department code enforcer by High Tech for a cost of $824. And you had that on here, that was a
Yep.
change, right?
Yep, it was just a change to item
Number 12.
G12.
Okay. So, if you've looked the agenda over, I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented with that item, number G12.
I'll make a
added.
motion to approve it as,
Okay, we have a motion to approve,
I'll
And
second.
and we have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you. All right, let's start with the consent agenda, the minutes from September 11th, the approval of the treasurer's reports, the reconciliation of tax account 3905, that's a one-page, reconciliation of the general checking for, I think it should be September, not August, isn't it?
No, all the treasurer reports were August.
Oh, that's right, okay. That's 2
Month
pages.
behind.
Yeah, that's right. Cash summary reports by general fund for August is 16 pages, and the Cottrellville Township investment reports for August are 4 pages. Then the approval of the clerk's report. We have a revenue and expenditure report beginning September 1st, ending September 30th, which is 25 pages. We have approval of payroll checks from September 1st to September 30th, a gross total amount of $20,136.75. Paychecks are now direct deposit, so they're number 96 and 130. The approval of accounts payable, there was no extras. There was already paid 58 checks, check numbers 22,291 to 22,348. Including 3 voids, in the total amount of $379,063.68. We also have 4 tax disbursements in the amount of $2,304,048.68, and the grand total of all the checks and payables would be 62 checks, and grand total is $2,683,112.36. We also have the Marine City Fire Authority runs for August. We have Ira Township's fire runs for August. And we have a letter from Mr. Alan Richley to the Township Board in opposition of the upcoming proposed tax millage increase. I'm sure everyone read it. We'll just,
I didn't see Ira in the
in
folder.
the reports. We didn't get a report this month?
No, I didn't
Okay.
receive.
That's all right, we can remove that, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Sometimes if they don't have a run, they don't send me a report. Okay. Mr. Richley's letter we're going to receive and file. All right, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
No motion.
Okay, and we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Please give me a roll call vote, please.
Mary Agnes?
Yes.
Angela, yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Eugene?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to talk about anything that's on the agenda at this time? Okay, well, we'll continue on. Unfinished business, we had the 7503 River Road update. That's the demolition was completed the week of September 16th, and we're waiting for final inspection by the building official. I think there's a couple people in the audience that are very happy about that. Okay, new business, request for pay project control engineering for the month of September, services rendered for the CWSRF project number 2021, which is the sewer project we had going. And once it's paid from the state of Michigan, then PCE's invoice number 21246-36 will be paid in the amount of $2,700, and it will be paid at that time. So we need permission to pay that when it comes due.
I'll make the motion.
All
I'll
right,
second.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. By roll call vote, please.
Mary Agnes?
Yes.
Angela, yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Eugene?
Yes.
Motion carried. Request for approval to pay Maple Landscaping in the amount of $15,857.43 for the landscaping project that's going to be paid from ARPA funds. The bid was approved at the special meeting held on August 26th, 2024, and the job is complete. It looks very nice. Do we have a motion to pay that bill, please?
I'll make a motion to pay Maple.
I'll support Maple Landscaping's payment too. All in favor signify by saying aye by roll call vote.
Mary Agnes?
Yes.
Angela, yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Eugene?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you very much. The next item is the use of ARPA funds to pay a 5-year support contract for our MyTel telephone system is quoted in quote number HTSQ 16922 from High Tech. It's dated September 27th and it is in the amount of $2,275.20. We have a motion to pay High Tech $2,275, please.
I'll make that motion.
We have a second?
I'll
Oh.
second.
Which one of you?
I'll second it.
They both decide. All in favor signify by saying aye by roll call vote, please.
Mary Agnes?
Yes.
Angela, yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Eugene?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you very much. The next item is request for approval of the proposal number 236596 in the amount of $1,830. That's from KCI for printing and mailing winter 2024 tax bills. I know you just paid them and now you got summer, winter coming. Approved for prepayment of the postage in the amount of $1,090. The balance of the project will be billed and paid accordingly following its completion, but will not be more than $1,830. Do we have a
I'll make a
motion to
motion.
prepay the postage and follow through with the balance when it comes?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, do we have a second to that, please? I'll make that. All right, all in favor signify by saying aye by roll call vote, please.
Mary Agnes?
Yes.
Angela, yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Eugene?
Yes.
Motion carried. We need a request for approval to allow the township to become Michigan Township Association premium members for the annual fee of $1,900. This premium membership includes all year-round access to all essential and plus level training and additional webcast courses. MTA has agreed to discount the invoice in the amount of $175 for the webcasts already purchased and approved at last month's meeting. So the remaining balance of this account would be in the amount of $1,725 to get approval. We have a motion to approve that MTA Association premium for $1,725 balance.
I'll motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye by roll call vote, please.
Mary Agnes?
Yes.
Angela, yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Eugene?
Yes.
Motion carried. The next item is a request by Treasurer Sarah Stefano. I have a heck of a time pronouncing that. For continuing education conference, she's our new treasurer. The Treasurer's Guide to Tax Collection to be attended on November 25th, 2024 by both herself and the Deputy Treasurer, Nicole Hart. And that total is in the amount of $260 plus mileage in one vehicle. Do we have a motion to approve the girls attending that class?
I'll make a motion for
Okay. We have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. All in favor signify by saying aye by roll call vote, please.
Mary Agnes?
Yes.
Angela, yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Eugene?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you very much. Request for approval to reimburse Assessor Barb Schutt in the amount of $175 for the renewal of her assessor certification for 2025.
I'll make the motion.
I'll support. Motion to approve and support. All in favor signify by saying aye by roll call vote, please.
Mary Agnes?
Yes.
Angela, yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Eugene?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you very much. Request for approval to pay Garen, Lukow, and Miller, PC, for invoices number 631374 in the amount of $153, and invoice number 631408 in the amount of $612 for services rendered. They are our township attorney. And this should be rendered in August of 2024 for the grand total amount of $765. Do we have a motion to pay our attorney for the $765?
I'll make a motion to pay the attorney.
I'll support. All in favor signify by saying aye by roll call vote, please.
Mary Agnes?
Yes.
Angela, yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Eugene?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you very much. The next item is the approval for payment of our water supply system number 12A. It's Series 2009. It would be also known as Water Districts 3 and 4 for Cottrellville Township, and they were described as follows. The interest payment is $12,781.25, and there's no principal due, and the agent fee is $75. So the grand total is $12,856.25, and that is got to be paid to the county prior to November 1st. Do I have a motion to approve payment for Water Districts 3 and 4 in the amount of $12,856.25?
I'll make the motion.
I'll support. All in favor signify by saying aye. By roll call vote, please.
Mary Agnes?
Yes.
Angela, yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Eugene?
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you very much. The next item is a resolution number 2024-13. It's for the St. Clair County Road Commission. It's the 2025 Local Road System Funding Assistance Program. The last few years, we've been getting a $100,000 match, and we put in $100,000. And so we've got another section of the road done on Shortcut Road. So with your permission, I'd like to prepare that document, and the resolution gives me permission to sign for it to be considered for next year's local road system funding assistance plan.
I'll make a motion to,
Okay, we have a motion
I'll second it.
and we have a support.
About 2 more years, we'll have the road done.
Yeah, we might, if they don't keep raising the price. We got 3,100 lineal feet the first time. I didn't get an amount on the second one, but it's getting shorter.
Was it 3,100?
It was 3,100 lineal feet, the first one.
Yeah, the second one, I thought I was just reading it.
Well, I put it down again, because that's what I figured it would be. They didn't give me a per
Okay.
limit, so. All in favor signify by saying aye by roll call vote, please.
Mary Agnes?
Yes.
Angela, yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Eugene?
yes.
Motion carried. Thank you very much. The next item is bid opening for the painting bids for the Township Hall inside our building here. I'm going to let Sarah do an explanation on that. She did all the legwork on that and put it together, and then she got a couple more prices that came in.
So there are 3 bids at the back of your folders, so.
Yes.
So it is.
So unfortunately, the biggest cost from all 3 contractors that came out for the painting bid is labor, because of all the stuff that we have in here that has to be moved and covered up, and all of our records that we have in our offices and stuff like that. So one of the bids that we have is by Maximum Renovations, and they were, it's cut off, $27,150. Then we have another one from a company.
Where is the first company out of?
They are not local.
Yeah, we didn't have any, I don't believe any locals that came out and quoted this.
There's one, wasn't there? from Martin Road.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh, the P3 painting? Okay. So the P3 painting came in at 21,150, and he is the local one. And then there was a third one from Mayday Construction, and they came in at $32,267.64.
Did we get any references from any of these painters, or?
No. It's been hard getting anyone even out here to give me bids.
I made some phone calls at P3, and anybody that knew them spoke highly of them.
Did they?
I didn't,
Well, they
I don't
came
know them
in
all.
the lowest.
yeah, and it's local.
And if I'm remembering correctly, P3 was one of the companies I tried getting hold of first, and I think they were just busy and they weren't able to come out here, so. I mean, they are local, they are the cheapest.
Well, I would make a motion to award the job to P3 Painting in the amount of $21,150 because they are a local contractor, and they were the least expensive of all three. Do we have a second?
The one builder I talked to said they were working on a bank in Marine City, and another guy said they did some houses up on the hill in St. Clair. No bad reports on them at all. That's all I could find out on.
On
short time I
P3?
had. P3.
Gotcha.
The other ones I had no idea even where to start asking.
The Maximum Renovations, they do a lot of work, like Grosse Pointe, St. Clair Shores, they're more out that direction.
They got a lot of travel time too, probably figured in there.
They weren't the highest though. That other one, 32,
Yeah, they were.
that was much higher. So I don't know where they're coming from. I don't. Right.
Okay, well, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a support?
I'll support.
All right, we have a motion.
Who's gonna inspect their work when they're done?
What'd you say?
Who's gonna inspect the job when they're done?
We'll put you in charge of that. How's that? Are you
I'm just
volunteering?
asking questions.
Oh,
Well,
okay. I
That's
thought
what
you were
I mean,
volunteering.
they basically have to work around us, so we'll be watching them as they do it, so.
I'm not saying nothing bad about the companies, I just, for anybody that's coming in to work, somebody should be in charge of making sure they're using quality material and things are cleaned up and left the way they're supposed to. Anyhow,
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. By roll call vote, please.
Mary Agnes?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Angela, yes. Tom?
yes.
Eugene?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried. Did he give you any certificate of insurance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Got that already? Did he say when he might be able to get to it, or?
No, I had to call and talk to him about that.
All right, let's talk to him and see what's gonna work best for him.
I
Okay?
think we're gonna have to do it,
Sections at a time, rooms
yes,
at a time.
so that we
yeah.
don't have to close down the whole building.
Exactly.
Especially with elections coming up here.
Oh, yes, we did
So-
decide though, we're not starting this until
No.
after the elections.
No.
Okay.
And then payments will come in a deposit and maybe one payment and then a final when they're done.
It's a final. He
Just a
didn't even
final?
request
He didn't
Okay.
request that.
He did request a
in
no
the-
deposit, so it'll be a
Okay.
final at the end of complete, that's how we did the landscaping one too.
Okay,
I think only the one contractor requested multiple payments.
all right.
All right, we'll continue with number 12. We had a request for installation of a
So
phone
that's-
line. Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I know, but
Oh.
don't read that one, read this.
Oh.
Read the change.
Okay, well, it was started out at $600, now it's gone to $824. And that's for the new quote for the telephone, to hook up a telephone for Nick in his office down in the building department. And it's done by High Tech. They do all of our phone work, so. I need a motion to approve that if you so desire.
A motion.
Okay, we have a motion, we have support?
I'll support.
And we have support. All in favor signify by saying aye. By roll call vote, please.
Mary Agnes?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Angela, yes. Tom?
Yes.
Eugene?
Yes.
Motion carried. All right. Public comments. Do we have any of anyone that wants to, what do you want?
No,
Oh, you want your papers
yeah,
back?
I'd like my papers back, thank you.
Any comments from the audience or any announcements? The announcement of a trunk or treat is going to be in our park on the 26th. It's a Saturday of October from 5 until 8. And we had help putting that together. That was done by our future supervisor, if I don't beat him, in a write-in. But he supplied some of the information on it and knocked on doors and got people to pay for it, so.
There is a sign-up genius if anybody's interested in having a car at the trunk or treat.
For us old people, tell them what that is.
It's a way to sign up online. If you guys have Facebook, you should be able to find it within either of the Cottrellville groups that are public on Facebook.
Or if you get a flyer.
The flyer has a QR code. If you take a picture of it with your phone, it'll link you directly to the Sign Up Genius. It's just a way to help us get a number as to how many to expect for that
How many
day.
kids are gonna
So,
show up, so.
yeah.
Okay. All right, is there anyone on the board that wants to make any comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:27.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll support. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you, everybody.